Hey guys, I want to cover something that I find very important. It's the top 10 habits of an improving chess player. Of course, it's a matter of opinion, just my opinion. These are the things that will improve your game the most. Number one being tactics puzzles. I do them all the time, almost daily, but they absolutely have improved my game more than any other single thing. Can't exactly get out of the opening or into an end game without knowing your tactics, especially at least your basic tactics. So I like to think of doing the tactics puzzles almost like you're learning a language. So when you're first starting out with chess, you learn the words of the language, pins and forks and skewers. All right, and then once you learn the language, you want to start building sentences. All right, you want to be able to speak the language, so you put those pins and forks and skewers together to make tactical themes and to be able to build on it through a game and make wild combinations happen. So, whenever you see Cao Tal game where he does this wild long combination, it's all through knowing the tactics and learning the language of the tactics, with all your pins, forks, and skewers and so on. So, and then it's just the pattern recognition. When you're doing these puzzles all the time, over and over and over, it kind of gets burned into your brain. You might do it 10 times before you got it down, but then it might take doing it 20 times before you start being able to employ it in your games. Some of the more hard ones. For me, there was one. It was a smothered mate. It was really cool where you sacrifice your queen to move your knight in a position where the king has nowhere to go, and you end up sacrificing the queen for a checkmate. I would get the puzzle right and do it so many times, but I would never see it come up in a game, or I was just missing it until finally I was able to say, hey, I can do this, and boom, 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 and make it happen. So you got to solidify it, have that pattern recognition, and do it over and over again. But like I said, tactics puzzles have been the number one thing for me. Number two, study the end game. You absolutely have to study the end game. If you don't study the end game, you're going to have games that you should have won that you're either going to draw or you're going to lose. You're going to have games that you're losing that you could have drawn by knowing how to pull it off. And what's cool is you don't have to study all the thousands of endgame positions out there. As a beginner, we all start with the basics, like how to checkmate with just a rook or two rooks or just a queen, or how to promote a pawn using king and pawn versus king, or king and two pawns versus king. So you get your basic end games out of the way, and it's just little by little you learn them over time. And what's really cool is, like, as you start learning the end games, you see it pop up in your games constantly. It's almost every time you're like, oh, I learned how to use opposition, here we go. Or, oh, I know that these two pawns protect themselves, I don't even need to rush my king into the position. Or oh, we're opposite colored bishop's endgame, I could definitely draw this. Or there's so many different things out there that as you're learning them, trust me, in your games you'll see them all the time. And for those of you that find studying the end game boring, I think it's probably, if I were to guess, you haven't seen it pop up in your own games to where you're able to really get that satisfaction of using that thing that you learned. So once you start doing that, I mean, that's what it was for me. Once it popped up in my own games, I'm like, oh man, I just learned that. That's awesome. I know the rook goes here, boom, 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 yes. And it's like, it feels so much more rewarding than just pulling off a tactic. It's like you actually win the game or draw a lost game because of something you've spent hours on. So studying the end game, absolutely important. Analyzing your games, absolutely important to analyze not only your own games, but if you want to go through old master games of maybe a player you really like, or a current top player that you really like, analyze their games, meaning you go through move by move, you try to figure out what you would do, and then you check and see if it was the right thing, see what the player that maybe that grandmaster played, and then you see what maybe the engine would have played after you make your own guess. Also with your games, after you get done playing your game, if you're like me, you play on chess.com, don't go straight into the computer analysis where it tells you all your blunders, mistakes, inaccuracies, all that. Try not to jump right into that. Do your own analysis. Go through the moves and see if you can find anything better moves along the way. You might find, more often than not, I know I do, I look at things, I'm like, why did I make that move? That's a waste of a tempo, or I miscalculated a tactic or an exchange. or an Endgame that seems like elementary, but you just completely botched it for whatever reason. So go through it on your own. See if you can find an improvement where you could have saved a tempo out of the opening, or whatever it might be. Then flip on the engine. Then do the analysis. If you use the chess.com analysis, pop in there, go through the moves, and see what the best moves were, because it seems real obvious when you go straight to the chess engine and it's like, oh, move 4, you should have played rook d5, whatever. I don't know why ever there'd be a rook d5 move on move 4. Anyway, but yeah, whatever the move might be, it seems super obvious when it's shown in front of you. It's just like when you hear a riddle and then you can't figure it out, or somebody tells you the answer right away and you're like, oh yeah, well that's obvious. Well, of course, now that you know the answer, it seems obvious. So don't switch on the engine right away. Analyze your games. Very helpful, and it helps you from repeating those mistakes. Next thing, play all time controls. So if you're just stuck in that habit of you do 10-minute games, that's your thing, you like it, cool, that's fine. Maybe you're not looking to improve or in different areas, like you're not looking to test your intuition, kind of your instincts. Blitz and bullet, you'll definitely test your instincts a lot. Yeah, there's probably not much to be said for playing only bullet and blitz all the time, because you're not spending much time calculation. You're just rapid fire making moves. So playing any one time control always will hurt your game kind of in long run. I know I was in the habit of playing blitz and bullet all the time, and then I went to a really, really small local tournament. Very first, in a matter of 3 games, I'm just blitzing out these moves. And granted, I have plenty of time. I forget what the time control. It might have been a 60-minute time control, and I'm blasting out my moves in no time and blundering everything. So you want to be comfortable in all time controls. Do the classical time formats where you're sitting there, you're calculating, you're really working on every variation. You're making sure you're playing accurately, and then you want to work in the middle, do the rapid time controls, which are 15, 30 minutes or so, and then go maybe try out a little bit faster, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, stuff like that, where it really tests your intuition and your instincts. So all time controls will help you. Just don't get stuck on one all the time. So this one's going to seem abstract. Stay involved in the chess world. So what do I mean by that? It's kind of like the media version of chess, like staying current in whatever YouTube channels you might want to follow, or podcasts. For me, I follow like Ben Johnson's Perpetual Chess podcast. It's really cool. He relates with a lot of like when I say lower rated, I mean less than Grandmaster. He has the Adult Improver series. He has Grandmasters on all the time. He has really cool people on. You get to hear their stories. You get to hear how they improve and stuff like that. So it kind of gets you involved and makes you feel part of the chess conversation. And then you have like different chess channels on YouTube. You have Agad Matter, who I've been watching for years, kind of, I want to say pretty much from his beginning, when and then his videos got better and better, and he covers all kinds of really cool things, keeps you current in what's going on with all the top players, he really covers the gamut of chess, from historical to modern and everything, and it's just really a fun way to relate, and he kind of brings it to the world in a nice way. So what is my point in saying stay current in the chess world, or stay involved? It makes you feel part of a community. You're involved in something, you know what's going on, and it kind of helps you, like, it keeps that passion alive to want to learn and get better. So if you're an improving player, you want to continue to improve, you want to continue to have that passion, well, being isolated and just by yourself playing on chess.com or Lee Chess, Chess24, wherever you play, you don't want to isolate. You want to be part of the community, be involved in it, and slowly but surely, that's what I've been trying to do myself. Be more involved and stay current on things. And it's amazing how big the chess world really is. So that's something I think helps just to kind of keep the fire alive and wanting to learn and get better. So take that for what it is. Also, by the way, a couple other little ones. Hikaru's Twitch stream. Hikaru's always really entertaining. Very fast player. Very funny. Chess Bras. They're very funny, entertaining to watch. They got some really cool videos. So Just keep that in mind. Something to do. I enjoy it. I think it works. I think it helps. Um, Number six, chess apps, software, and websites. I've touched on them a little bit. So this is just like a two-sided coin. You have the technology side, and then you have the what would you call it? The manual side. You know, whether you use books or technology. Um, Both are great, but I think both have their times and place. For me personally, I use chess.com a lot. I know I've already said that I'm not sponsored. I'm not trying to name drop. It's just the one I started with, so I've always used that. I'm more comfortable with it. But they have so much from the lessons, videos, tactics, all of that. As far as software goes, I don't personally use a chess engine. I just use the one that comes on the site. And as far as other websites, Chessable, I do use off and on. I haven't exactly got the bug with it yet, but like it does have like so many cool features. If you want to learn a certain opening, or if you want to, maybe there's a book you really like and somebody's covered it. I know Ginger GM, he's covered the Art of Attack in Chess. I have the book and haven't got all the way through it. I mean, well, that's a lie. I barely got through it all. I just, like any chess player that has a ton of chess books, like you just don't either don't have the time or don't make the time to get through them all. But Chessable does a really good job of covering a lot of books, openings, and end games you should know, stuff like that. So it's really good software to use. Um, and the other side of that coin, like I said, the manual side is using chess books. So there's something to be said about like having the physical book, and I feel like a lot of players, especially in listening to Ben Johnson's podcasts with the Adult Improver series, people like having that physical book to crack open the book, and you go chapter by chapter, and you go over the board, make the moves and everything, and follow along. And there's something to be said about that. Like you feel like you're in class. This is study time. I've got a book open. I'm highlighting stuff. You're actually taking the time to learn. I know for me, when I do that, I make sure I'm in a quiet place. I don't really have. I try not to have like music with lyrics on. It's if I do have music on, it's like, all right, this is study time. So like I said, there's something to be said about books. For me, the two most notable books are both by Jeremy Silman. Actually, I just, for some reason, I don't know if it's his writing style or whatever, but I relate to those to the best. It was the easiest for me to learn. Reassess Your Chess. I think Volume 4 is the most current, and Jeremy Silman's Endgame Manual. Yeah, of course, Mark Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual is like it's like the Bible of endgames, but it's definitely a lot harder. It's the upper echelon. I don't know if you'd say like 1800 to 2000 plus for end games, but Jeremy Silman's Endgame Manual is more in my realm. I'd say under 2000 players. So it starts you from like very much beginner into the much higher ratings. So it was relatable. Loved it. Like I said, those two were the best, the most I've learned from, and I still use them both to this day all the time. Crack them open and check the end games, make sure I still got them. All right, this one. Beginners always want to learn openings. Spend less time on openings. I know starting out I wanted to, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna learn this cool opening that nobody's ready for and whatever. There's not enough variation out there to like. Hold on, before I misspeak, yeah, there's an infinite number of possibilities when it comes to openings, but you're not going to find this crazy opening that's so cool and you trick everybody every single time. What you want to find is an opening you like, learn the first few moves and stick with it. And you're going to learn openings better through experimentation. Because if you just go through studying and like, oh, I know this opening 15 moves deep, and like, all right, but do you know why it works? Do you know why you play H3 on move 7? Like, so you're better off just through playing and watching, and like I said earlier, like staying involved in the chess world. Watching Agad Matter's videos was really how I learned a lot of my openings. Like, oh, Queen's Gambit Decline, this is often played this way, or this, Sicilian Accelerated Dragon is played this way. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then you see it played many different ways, and you experiment with it, and you see what works, see what doesn't. But you'll notice that you don't have to spend a ton of time on openings if you're not like heavily involved in high-rated tournaments. And you know, you're at the GM level. Yes, they have to study their openings. They have to know to a certain depth for various openings. They have to prepare for their opponent. They know, all right, this guy plays the French a lot. I need to know the Whenever variation or whatever. Yeah, for the most part, us, you know, lowly normal people out there, we're not going that far. We're not going that far into it. Study your tactics and your end game, and you know, you can always get a favorable opening for the most part. So yeah, spend a little bit less time on openings if you notice you're spending a lot of time there, because trust me, it's not going to get you the win. Playing and studying over the board. All right, this is just like the whole studying books versus online. Same thing with playing or studying over the board. If you play online all the time and then you're at a coffee shop or wherever and you know you want to sit down and play a game with somebody, or you're going to a tournament to play over the board, if you don't ever play over the board, your game won't be as good as if you still did practice from time to time, and vice versa. If you play on a board all the time and then all of a sudden like the kind of online thing is new to you, you're gonna have trouble. I know for me, when I play, I got a pretty big phone here. I got the Pixel 3 XL, and it's a nice size screen, so I play on the phone all the time. So when I went to play on my laptop for some of the first games, I got destroyed. I'm like, I didn't know how to chess, like just couldn't do it. So it was a learning curve. But yeah, playing over the board via you know, mobile or laptop, desktop, whatever, they're all different mediums. So you do have to spend time on each one. You know, whether it be just digital and over the board. It's not a huge thing for improvement. It's just something to kind of be more cognizant of. And the last thing is play people above your rating. This could be a coach, a mentor, or just a friend that you know that's maybe a couple hundred points rated higher. You'll learn a lot from them. That's how I started out. Like I played a lot of people higher rated than me, and they just were better players, and that's where I learned all kind of things. Where you know I was hanging my rooks because that bishop was on that long diagonal, and I'd lose that rook over and over again, and just like little things. Until you get better and better, you learn, you know, from you know their experiences. So it definitely helps to have somebody that you could either say, you know, either a coach or mentor, or like I said, higher rated player. There's so much to be said for it. So don't get stuck in the trap. Like I know I do all the time of just, you know, you go on whatever site it is you use to play chess, and you know you're staying within 100 points either direction, and constantly playing people right there. You know. It can be very humbling. I tried it a few weeks ago. I played somebody, whatever it was, 400 points higher, and I got demolished against a accelerated dragon in the Sicilian that I play all the time. And this guy just knew his stuff, demolished me in a matter of minutes, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I got stuff to learn. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my 10 things on an improving chess player. If you take away anything from this video at all, tactics and endgame. Study tactics, puzzles, and endgame. That's it. But yeah, the rest of the stuff is nice to have as well. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and see you next time.